most lucrative speed camera in Washington, D.C. is a relatively new one installed on the Potomac River Freeway. It issued enough tickets in the first half of 2024 to total $5.9 million. We can use this number to project the yearly total, which is estimated at $11.7 million, assuming that people will take a little bit more time to adjust to this camera. There are warning signs that says photo enforced hang beneath the 40-mile-per-hour sign on either side of the tunnel, but they are often missed or ignored by an average of 305 drivers a day who receive speeding tickets in the mail. Each ticket ranged from $100 to $500 depending on the severity of the offense. The Potomac River Freeway camera near the Kennedy Center was only added in January of 2023. It first issued warning in the first 3 months, a grace period before imposing the official fine. But drivers still haven't learned to obey this limit even after a year of it being in place. The District of Columbia, or DC, and 22 states have passed laws that permit the use of speed cameras as a means of generating revenue and deterring speeders. On the other hand, 9 states have passed laws that prohibit the use of speed cameras. And the rest really have no laws regarding speed cameras at all. Many states that do allow speed cameras have very strict limitations on where they can be installed. For example, Arizona allows speed cameras statewide, but not on state highways or within 600 feet of a speed limit change. The states surrounding the district, such as Virginia, where I'm from, permits a full use of speed cameras, while Maryland speed cameras only apply to work and school zones only. These cameras are even referred to as a shameless money grab by some residents in these areas. And one person I spoke to often referred to these as a government revenue raising machine masquerading as a public service. These individuals often citing alternative ways of slowing down traffic by redesigning intersections and roads to be more safe in areas where we know there's a lot of speeding. For example, Jersey City achieved 0 traffic death on a street in 2022. They use a strategy called tactical urbanism. Local communities who live in these areas redesign dangerous areas themselves with the blessing of the council. They test out low-cost projects to improve safety. For example, they transform problematic intersections into pedestrian plazas, eliminating the confusing and bad road designs. However, the District of Washington, D.C. went to a completely different route. In 2015, Mayor Bowser unveiled a traffic safety initiative called Vision Zero. The aim is to bring traffic fatalities and injuries to zero. Cameras that automatically detect speeding and stop sign violations were a critical part of the initiative. Since then, the city has installed 477 traffic cameras, including 140 since last November. The Office of the Chief Financial Officer expects these cameras to bring in more than $1 billion in revenue over the next 4 fiscal years. Even after revenue is expected to plateau and then even decline as people adjust their driving habits. In this year alone, the top 10 speeding cameras in DC is estimated to bring in $55 million. This roughly equals $151,000 per day, equating to roughly 1,445 citations. A report from 2017 showed that the district generates more money from fines compared to any other city in America. And I know that DC itself is not a city, but for this comparison's sake, it is. This is more than double of New York City, the number 2 city in fines per person at $118. The city also wants this system to be a model for the rest of the country. Speed cameras free up existing police forces and are more accurate compared to traditional radar guns. Vehicle speeds are detected by multi-tracking radar, tracking the exact speed and position of vehicles 20 times per second. The speed safe camera is only triggered if the vehicle exceeds the configured speed. The first violation photo is taken as the vehicle passes the first report line. Second violation photo is taken as the vehicle passes the second report line. The cameras don't take photos unless you're more than 11 miles over the limit. Therefore, in the case of the Potomac River Freeway camera, drivers are photographed and only cited when they hit a speed of 52 miles per hour or more. This is because the speed limit there is 40 miles per hour and the buffer is roughly 11 miles. But traffic fatalities really haven't gone down even after the city implemented so many cameras. Far from it. They've increased every single year, reaching 52 deaths last year according to the city data. In addition to this, many drivers find these cameras to be a nuisance and a real financial burden on some. The fines, which start at $100 can reach $500 for high speed, have become the city's main way of traffic enforcement. DC have installed these cameras at 12 of the district's 25 deadliest intersections. Previous research have concluded that the speed cameras prevent what would be a major increase in serious crimes. On similar roads without cameras, they found an increase of 1.5 times larger for crash rates, 1.7 times larger for injury rates, and 2.1 times larger for death rates. In Ireland, road death decreased from 415 in 2000 to 137 in 2021 after speed cameras were implemented. A meta-analysis reported by Evek et al. Found an overall decrease of 16% in the number of injury crashes and a 39% decrease in fatal crashes. Speed cameras obviously work at reducing death and the severity of injuries. However, is it enough by itself, and does it also justify the price tag being paid by the residents? Part of the reason why traffic death continue to rise is largely due to pedestrian deaths. Pedestrian death made up roughly 40% of traffic-related fatalities, and this is even more if you include those who ride bikes and scooters. Many say that the district needs to make roads more pedestrian-friendly. Residents and local elected leaders say that roads are not pedestrian safe, lack well-marked sidewalks, and have long stretches with no traffic signals, which creates an opportunity for speeding and make for unsafe crossings. Furthermore, drivers only slow down at places with speed cameras, but not afterwards. In a quarter-mile stretch from Minnesota Avenue southeast from Nelson Place to Pennsylvania Avenue, there is no traffic lights. Crosswalk signs are unclear. Residents have erected makeshift signs that read "Drive like your kids live here" after 2 people were killed in the past 8 years. Based on this, it's obvious that more needs to be done in order to continue to halt or reduce the number of fatalities on the road. Between 2016 to 2020, the district collected 62% of all traffic fine revenue from neighborhoods with a median household income is below $50,000. In these areas, the infrastructure is especially bad, with some streets lacking adequate lighting to alert drivers when someone's walking there. Neighborhoods east of the Anacostia River had lagged financially in recent decades, as other parts of the city saw infusions of money and people, with some being transformed into dense corridors that bring slower speeds. Road and transit improvements followed, building upon a public transportation system built to focus on Northwest and the downtown core. This call for a better infrastructure also exists in other areas of the district as well. Safety advocates and some residents are urging the city to remake car-centric streets, incorporating the need for those on foot, riding a scooter, or a bike. This call for better infrastructure also exists in other areas of the district as well. Many bikers feel safer with a camera but would like to see protected bike lanes on the street to safeguard cyclists who find themselves frequently dodging cars. And these efforts are coming, but it's slower compared to the addition of speed cameras around the district. So do speeding cameras really change behavior? DC says many people only get 1 ticket and never again. Other roads that have cameras and that previously had fatal accidents saw between 15 to 61% fewer citations. Speeding cameras are an important part of DC's initiative at curbing poor driving behavior. For some cameras in the city even gave a grace period where only a warning was given out. However, to really solve the problem of fatalities, there needs to be a focus on making sure that the roads have better lighting, clearer lines, and more indicators. And areas that are greatly affected have a disproportionate share of high-speed roadways. In addition to this, many of these locations also have insufficient lighting for nighttime travels. And fixing these mistakes do take time. In a 2020 resolution, the Advisory Neighborhood Commission in the area urged the city to tackle excess speeding on the commuter routes that traverse residential neighborhoods. This includes Alabama, Branch, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, and Southern Avenue. It asked for more indicators to alert drivers about speed, restripping of sidewalks, and more obvious speed cameras. In 2022, nearly 36 neighborhood commissioners from the city's 8 wards signed a petition last month urging the DC Council to expedite road improvements for pedestrians. This includes sidewalks, expanding school zones, and more traffic enforcement. The increased use of cameras come as the DC Council and government agency also crack down on driving infractions in other ways. The fines don't really work unless people actually care about receiving them. A man racked up nearly 44 tickets in a year worth $12,000 and killed 3 people on the Rock Creek Parkway. Despite DC knowing that he was a reckless driver, he was still on the road. Most of the tickets that he received were speeding violations that did not affect the ability for him to hold a license. Another car with a Maryland tag had 339 outstanding tickets worth $184,000 in fines and penalties. The council recently passed a bill to empower the DC Attorney General to sue drivers with multiple violations regardless of where they live. The bill will also allow the city to install speed restricting devices on cars of drivers who commit speeding violations. Any vehicle in DC can be booted or towed regardless of where it's registered. Under this bill, the Office of the Attorney General will also be able to file lawsuits in DC Superior Court against out-of-state drivers with violations if state agencies in Virginia, Maryland, or elsewhere do not hold them accountable. The bill was passed by the DC Council in February 2024. However, the mayor and Congress still need to sign off on the legislation before it becomes law. 25 years ago, Washington was debt-ridden and needed a financial bailout to avoid going broke. By 2017, it was running an annual surplus of more than $100 million with $2.4 billion in reserves. Part of the reason behind the reversal in Washington's fortune come from taxes. Few cities levy property, income, and sales taxes together. Another part comes from the courtesy of elsewhere altogether, fines. And like I mentioned earlier, DC gives people more fines per capita compared to any other city in America. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you guys like it. Next week, I want to talk about how Chinese households are able to save so much money compared to American ones. I find this really interesting, and I hope you guys find it interesting as well. Well, if you want to see it, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys again next week.